are in more, what's it called? Faith and Trust, and we're on page 130, section 30. There is yet another disease of the spirit that the evil inclination uses to keep this belief in stages, what we call emunat chachamim, from entering people's hearts. And that is the fickle scale of personal interest, or in halachic terms, negia. I'm nogea b'davar. In other words, I'm integrally involved in something, so I want to. I become prejudiced against it or for it, so I cease to have a balanced view. That's the best way to say that. The disciple is obligated to believe that there is no personal interest powerful enough to incline the heart of a scholar to pervert justice, for the goal of the Torah scholar is to bring merit to his soul, and to stain his soul with sin would hurt him far more than any physical blow. So how could he, for money or from a desire to please someone, harm his soul by perverting justice? In addition to this, the quality of trust is the most basic quality of the sage, and even the slightest untruth is alien to him. Such an attitude towards the scholars is that of the mass of honest men who follow the Torah scholars and learn from them. But the evil inclination can undermine this trust by entrapping those who tend toward convoluted reasoning and offering them a complete theory, supposedly drawn from the Gemara, that personal interest has definitive power for the petty and the great alike. Even the wisest are prey to it, as are the Hasidim and the righteous. According to this theory, the scholar who gives into personal interest has nothing to be ashamed of, for such is human nature. But those who claim so do not know that according to this assumption, the entire generation is hereby orphaned, and there can be no judges and no leaders. For even if a person will recognize the immense wisdom of the wise, he will not feel obligated to obey him, as he will find some reason to claim that the scholar's decision was swayed by personal interest. Okay, so once I throw that into the equation, and I say, oh, he had an agenda, like we did, by the way. If you remember back, if you go back to Faith and Trust 1, 2, or 3, you will see that we all decided that the Chazon Ish had an agenda. Okay? And when you say he had an agenda for education, or he had this problem, he had that problem, immediately that colors our perception of what he's saying. And again, if you go back to the first couple of classes, you remember what I said, that's what YouTube is for. But you will see that we were saying, and we were all saying, oh wow, he really had an agenda here. Once you say that, he's claiming. Once you say that, he's lost his audience. They're not going to listen to him anymore. He had an agenda. Fine, say an agenda. So what he's saying is prejudice. He's arguing that a scholar doesn't do that. That's our Yetzer Hara kicking in. We have to have Emunah and the Chacham. You could say that he had an agenda that way too. I'm not going to argue one way or another, but that could be the Yetzer Hara, and it shows you how insidious our Yetzer Hara can be. Okay? Because even if he's right with everything he's saying, and I don't think that anybody really disagrees with what the Chazon Ish is saying, but since I'm saying we, literally we, decided from the beginning, oh, this is where he's coming from, he must have had this problem. Then we find out and we verify it via history. Yes, that was his problem. Okay, fine. Then we say, oh, see, we were right. Would he say the same thing today? I hope the answer would be yes. Okay, but that's what he's picking on right now. So it's good that we said this in lessons 1, 2, and 3, or whatever the lessons were. But like I said, you have to be what he's arguing right now is that's our Yetzer Hara kicking in. And as a result, we don't feel obligated to follow what he's saying. Okay. So this can be claimed by anyone who is not satisfied with the scholar's decision. And so the generation begins to judge its judges, and anyone can do as he pleases. In any important case, clever ones will whisper to one another of some personal interest that causes the sage, sometimes the greatest man in the generation, to judge wrongly. In such a case, the city's atmosphere, and sometimes the entire country's atmosphere, becomes permeated with malicious words, disputes and feuds, and the source of it all is the lack of faith in Torah scholars. So now let's take a couple of issues. When Rav Moshe Feinstein rules that the USDA is good in this country, and when they are supervising the milk plants, we no longer need to have supervision, as it were, because of the USDA, and therefore we could drink that milk. One could argue, so he was paid off by the companies or something else. No, he was making a valid halachic decision that's up there, and you don't have to accept it. I'm not going to argue you have to accept everything that people say, but you can't dismiss it saying that it's politics. Or when people do anything with the kashrut of the system, you can't claim it's just politics. You have to. What he's arguing is that we have to say that there's something behind what they're saying, and they are not judging based upon the money that they're going to receive or not receive from the organization. And these are real decisions, and that's it. Now, again, do I have to accept every leniency out there or every stringency? No, but I can't. I should not be dismissing it based upon what I believe the agenda was.
Someplace where you see this particular situation is just awful.
Say again, please.
I said a situation
right.
where you see examples of this is there are several Orthodox blogs, websites, and people will comment on the different news stories. And invariably where they'll have these gadol's, that know so much more than anybody else that's even commenting. And yet they feel free to say, oh, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about, and this and that, and this and that. And you sit there and you go, oh, I stopped altogether that.
On the blogs, you'll never see one of the giants.
No, they're not. Maybe the story's about one of their rulings.
So,
then these other people who consider themselves Orthodox and yeshivish and everything,
so
they're ripping everything that this man is saying.
Correct. So my problem is when you see something like that, is you never know what was really said until you see it in print by that person's computer, and or he signs off on it. It's like the political commercials. I'm Joe Lieberman, and I agree, or whatever it is, I agree with this message. What do they say all the time? The political. I endorse this message. So if one of the Gedolim would say, yes, I read this and I endorse what is said, then you can accept that he said it, and then you can agree or disagree, assuming you have the knowledge.
Well, obviously, from a lot of the things that people are commenting, they don't have the knowledge.
No, and that's his point. That's his point. That's his point. Well, because what happens is when these giants come out with something, pro or against, so pro or con, so then people want to say, well, they're a rabbi, I learned, or I'm a rabbi, we're all equal. Okay, you can do what you want. And like I said, it's a hurricane. I think most people know that they're not at the level of what we would consider the giants today, even the giants today. In other words, if you have Rav Herschel Schachter is going to say something, if you're going to disagree with him just because you disagree, or Rabbi Willig, or anyone from YU, or that's known, or the Satmar Rebbe of old, the new one, I don't know anything about him, but he's the old one, even the Lubavitcher Rebbe. We're going to disagree with these guys. We're going to disagree with these rabbis. So that's all the people out there are going to yell at me for saying guys. But if you're going to disagree, you better know what you're talking about. It's not so easy to, I mean, it's easy to disagree, but without the proper research, without knowing what they know, having that field of knowledge, that depth of knowledge, thank you. So you're just an idiot. It would be like, and it's no different by the way in the secular world, when if a doctor, a brain surgeon is talking about something in the brain, and the GP says, well, I disagree with him. Who are you going to take? The brain surgeon or on the brain? The brain surgeon or the GP? I didn't take the brain surgeon. I don't really want the GP touching me at that point. Or anything like that. If you have an expert in the field, you don't go for the regular guy. This regular guy may have a lot of knowledge. He may be very good with what he does. He gives out pills very nicely. But when it comes to operations, I don't want that GP, with all good respect to GPs. I don't want them when it's something that's going to be that technical. On the other hand, I don't want the brain surgeon checking me out when I have a problem with a broken. I don't want to say myself. Whether somebody has a broken leg, he shouldn't go to a brain surgeon either. He should go to the orthopedic guy. And if you have stomach, you don't go to the orthopedic guy. You don't go to the chiropractor, although some people would say you should. But it's you go to an internist. If you have sports medicine guys, they're all different things today. There's hardly any GPs out there. I don't think there is a GP.
There's a big family practice group.
Yeah, but they're not GPs anymore. The GP.
That's what a GP is anymore. It's called family practice. They kind of specialize in the lower levels of everything and then refer you on to the specialists for big problems.
I know when I was growing up, we had a GP. The guy
carried a little black bag, made house calls.
Yeah, he was very good. He got the job done. Yeah. But it's again, he would be the first one to tell me if you have something wrong, you have a problem, you go to the next level. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's what it is. So I have also with this system, if you have people who are writing like they have right now, I talked about in the morning, the Shabbos app. That
for the Android phones. Yeah.
Android, I don't know what they are. And it's supposed to, the Shabbos, you can't write on Shabbos, you can't text, okay? But people are texting. You have some religious kids who are texting and on Shabbos. They're breaking Shabbos. And they say that they can't not do it. Okay, fine. So now this app is supposed to alleviate that system, allowing them through halachic methodology to text or whatever they're going to do. Okay, so it's called the Shabbos app. So it's called. So immediately the lines were drawn. It didn't take. This is a computer age. It did not take more than 24 hours to draw these lines. Okay, the Shabbos app people say they have giants on their side. They've never identified who the giants are. Who've allowed for this app? At least not that I've seen. Maybe after hearing this, they'll jump on my back too. But they haven't said anything. Everybody else, though, from the OU and on, across, down, up, have said, no way, this is no good, it's forbidden. Which I thought was strange, because nobody really knows what it is. I'm forbidding something that I don't know what it is, which I don't think is fair either. First you have to know what it is, and then you can say it's not good.
Well, how come? No, they must. If they're giving a ruling, they must know what it is.
No, they're holding us. This is a telephone. This is muksa. This is asher to use. That's what they're holding. So now they're saying that no matter what I do, there's no way that I'm guessing. I haven't seen. All I saw on the net was this is asher. So they didn't put. There's no reason for anything. That's what I'm saying.
Well, the reason is it's muksa.
No. So they're saying it's not. They're saying they removed it. What does muksa mean? That I can't use it for. There's no use for it on Shabbos. But now if I make there's a use for it on Shabbos, so it's no longer muksa. For instance, I'll give you a classic example. A hammer. A hammer is muksa. Why? Because I made it can bang in the nail. But if I want to crack a nut, I can take that hammer, crack the nut. Not a problem. It's not muksa. I can bang it. Okay? So anything I want to use, I set aside this Shabbos, now I can use. That which was originally forbidden. So now, let's say this is not an Android, this is a Base Horizon, but you said Android, I'll take your word for Android. Okay, let's say I have the Android iPhone, T-phone, what phone is that? Okay. And so now, if it has a use suddenly, I can use it. It's not muksa anymore. It loses status of muksa. I don't know how to translate muksa.
The explanation that I read, because I read this when it came out a week or two ago,
Right.
is they're using the same logic that goes into certain vessels of hot water and things like Shabbos elevators in Israel.
Yeah, grama. I know what they want to claim.
That it's always on, that it stores nothing that you type, that this automatically gets erased as you type it. You know, the machine doesn't store it. It's still sending it somewhere.
Still a circuit
But you
with
can't
fire.
use a telephone to talk, and it doesn't store anything either.
Okay, so I'm not going to try.
I'm just saying that's the
I'm
rationale for it.
I'm using that as an example. So
Yeah.
let's not. I'm not expert at all. I have no idea of really what the Shabbos app is.
It's just an excuse for parents who can't teach their children that no, there's some things that are just not acceptable on Shabbos, whether you can hardly stand life or not without it.
And this is being motivated by adults because it's a kid.
Yeah, because they have as much problem as the kids.
No, because they get $50. Yeah,
It's a Kickstarter campaign, is what it is.
it's a $50 app.
It's being crowdsourced,
Okay, good.
crowdfunded.
So good. Okay, so the point is that you have rabbis who came out against it, and immediately there's people coming saying, "Oh, the rabbi, it's not fair that the rabbis are doing that. They came out without knowing, or they came out just because they don't hold. There's an agenda here. Blah 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 blah." That's what I'm bringing up. Okay, and that's what he's saying. You've lost your lack in. There's no faith that the person looking at this, our Rebbeim, that they're doing it l'shem shemayim. Now, I'm
There's
not.
no respect for the Gedolim anymore.
Yes, that's true. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
So he's saying once you put an agenda there, that's what's happening. You won't have that sort of faith. You won't have that emunah coming. Fine. So the basis for such a false notion can be found in the Gemara Sanhedrin. A king, it says a king and a high priest, are not appointed to the court that makes a decision regarding a leap year. The king, because of the salary that he has to pay his army, which depends on this decision, so he's not going to want to extend the year. The high priest, because of the cold, adding an extra month will push off Yom Kippur by a month when it will be colder, and therefore harder for the high priest to perform the immersions and the hand washings required of him that holy day. So for two reasons, here you have two agendas. One, I don't want to pay you extra money. Two, I don't want to go in the mikvah when it's cold. In the temple, they did not have.
The mikveh was
No,
not
Are
heated.
you sure that they didn't heat them?
No, that's right. I know they didn't. Right, they did not have. They wouldn't allow a heated pool. What they had was, in the Gemara, the Mishnah says it, is after the mikvah they could sit by the bonfire and dry off and warm up. So there was they had to go in the cold. Apparently they could have heated it up, and they chose not to.
There are some cold mornings in Jerusalem.
Yes. Okay. So they didn't want to push off. So that's why they could not rule regarding a leap year, because they had an agenda. So this rule holds for the most pious of the kings, and for a high priest such as Shimon HaTzadik, Simon the righteous. It is further said in the Gemara Ketubot that Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yossi, had a tenant who would bring him a basket of fruit before every Shabbat. Once he delivered it earlier on a Thursday, explaining that he was coming into to town anyway, for it was a market day, and adding that he had a court case in which Rabbi Yishmael was to be the judge. Rabbi Yishmael disqualified himself from judging the case, and he admitted afterwards that when he followed it, while it was being judged by the other judges, he found himself finding arguments in favor of his tenant. A similar story is told there about Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Elisha. So here, if I'm giving you something, even though I'm not bribing you, even though it's normal for me to do it, now when I'm you, the judge, should recuse yourself from the case, not because you're really going to be prejudiced, hopefully he would be able to keep it.
the appearance of
But you don't want to do that. And in this case, he found, the judge is saying, I actually found myself rooting for the guy. Imagine, here's one of the tzaddikim, and he's admitting that, hey, you know what? I was prejudiced towards him, even though I thought I wouldn't be, as it were. But I recused myself, because you have to do that. Bribery is a special case. Taking bribes is an absolutely condemned action. The Torah views it as an abomination. At its root, it is one of the mysteries of the power of human nature. Bribery blinds the wise and causes them to pervert justice. Since it is said that the Holy One, blessed be He, looked into the Torah and created the world according to it, the Torah itself created this reality that bribery has a power to blind and distort. And the Torah warns us to avoid it. Now, I want you to just think about something. I love what this line. He looked into the Torah and created the world. The Torah itself created the reality that bribery has a power, and then it told us to avoid it. You hear the poetry of this? The Torah is creating the problem.
Gives us the chance.
For free will, fine. But I'm just saying, that's the Torah creates the reality. So it's such an interesting twist, because we look at bribery, we look at homosexuality, we look at all these things as an aberration. No, the Torah created the reality that these things are wrong. Without that Torah creating the reality that's wrong, or judging it one way or another, there would be no wrong or right. It would be we create the reality, but the Torah is creating the reality. So and once the Torah creates the reality, it tells you good or no good, avoid, don't avoid. That's a very strong statement. Okay? I hope I'm getting that across, but because that's a major thing. It's not something based on nature or nurture. It's the Torah creating the reality. That's how the Chazon Ish is looking at this. Okay? The power of personal interest is part of the way of the world, the nature of human beings. But bribery has an additional power of impurity that seals the heart and anesthetizes the mind, making it actually pleasant for the judge to acquit the briber. The Torah prohibited a bribed judge from judging a case between his briber and a fellow Jew. If he does attempt to do so, the protective shroud of wisdom that the judge has been promised from above so as to save him from error and sin is removed from him. So here we have what we call siyata dishmaya, the help of heaven. When I'm judging a case, I shouldn't say I don't have the power. When the judges are judging a case, then, assuming that there's nothing getting in the way, there's what we call siyata dishmaya, the help of heaven, that will help them get to the proper decision. If, on the other hand, they have, for some reason, become prejudiced for the other person, and they don't admit to it, that power, that guarantee, if you will, was taken away. Okay? The warning against taking bribes is not one of the Torah laws that can be readily understood. It's not one of the mishpatim. Rather, it is one of the decrees that are beyond our full understanding, what we call chukim. The Torah did not disallow a person from deciding on a halachic matter pertaining to himself. One is allowed to examine one's own animal and decide whether it is kosher or not, even if one is poor and his very life depends on it. He can also decide on the matter of chametz that was owned by a Jew himself during Pesach, and may therefore not be eaten after Pesach, even if this chametz is of great monetary value. If one decides that it is permitted to eat it, and some false finder comes and says that the decision was incorrectly dictated by his own material considerations, this false finder would be violating the prohibition of questioning the decision of one's teacher. We are certain that the sages are above such lowly considerations. and only ignorant people of little knowledge, who cannot recognize or understand the soul of a truly wise person, are capable of suspecting them. So again, he's going out strong on that one, because what he's trying to do at this point is to reinforce our belief in Emunah Chacham. Now, the Emunah Chacham, this trust of the sages, really does create a problem, because some people take this to mean that if the rabbis of the Talmud or otherwise would say something as far as, I'll take one of the issues, that the world is flat, well, we have to accept it because Emunah Chacham. Or if they say that there is no evolution in the world, or no animal has become extinct since the beginning of creation until now, again, they have that power, according to some people, of Emunah Chacham. I'm not sure if this is what the Chazon Ish was picking on. I think from what we've been reading all the way through, that it's safer to say that when he's picking on Emunah Chachamim, that it means halachic decisions. That's what I'm getting from it. Now, again, people can yell at me all they want, but it seems to be, based upon what he's been saying until now, that that's what he's looking at. Let's look at what the halacha is and see how they decide it. He's not picking on, it doesn't seem that he's picking on the philosophical decisions of whether there is spontaneous generation, or whether the sun revolves around the moon, or the sun revolves around the planet Earth, or the planet Earth revolves around the sun. He doesn't seem to be getting involved in that. I may be wrong, but it doesn't seem to me that that's what he's going on. But again, because he uses that word Emunah Chachamim, the trust of the sages, some people use that term certainly as a hammer against anybody who doesn't accept a line from the Gemara about philosophical terms. And again, I'm not sure that that's fair to do that. Not based on how he's defining it until this point. When somebody listens, I want to see somebody call me from YouTube and say, "I think you're wrong, Rabbi." I'll say, "Thank you for listening." Okay. When it comes to a dispute, and they get this far into the tape, it's 27 minutes, then I know they listen to it again. When it comes to a dispute between two people, the Torah prohibited the participation of a particular judge only in the case of bribery given during the trial. It did not prohibit a person from judging a friend or an enemy, the only exception being one's closest friends, or someone who hates a prospective judge so much that he has not spoken to him for 3 days, according to one opinion brought by the Ramah in the Choshen Mishpat. Even though there is a definite natural tendency to act in favor of a loved one and in disfavor of a hated foe, the special forces of impurity relating to bribery are lacking here. The Torah is completely certain that the sage serving as a judge will judge fairly, and that his heart will not be swayed by his natural desires, for the avoidance of such behavior is already a habit, second nature for a sage, for whom truth is always a guiding star, and justice will reign. Moreover, it is said that in cases where loss may be sustained, a person may judge for himself, and he is not suspected of perverting justice. And in Baba Basra, it says a judge who is called to court himself and the disputed property is taken from him by judicial decision is not a judge, for he himself should have made the correct decision and not taken what was not his by law. He is not excused by the fact that he was motivated by personal interest. So here you go. You have a judge who goes to court. What do they always say about a lawyer who has himself for a client?
Yeah, it's like a doctor who operates out.
Right, what's the expression? No, a client who has a...
He has a fool for a client.
There you go. A lawyer depends on...
Lawyer who's going to be...
Yeah. So we don't have lawyers, so he's saying if a judge who knows what the law is, and suddenly he's going to court, and his property is taken away, he's not even fit to be a judge anymore. because he let his personal interest take over. And think of the level that the Chazon Ish and the actually Bab Basra, get the Chazon Ish is later, he's just quoting. But think of the level that the Gemara is putting a judge at. That you're not allowed, even for yourself, to take money away from yourself and to give it over. No big deal, because you realize there's an argument going on. Fine, so you're going to default, but you're going to default and give the money away. But to argue the other way, think, no, I'm in the right. When you know that in every single case there's your truth, his truth, and then there's someone in the middle, that's the real truth. You know that's the reality. And you just have personal interest, you want to get this guy. So that, and therefore, since you did that, you're not fit to be a judge for anybody else. That's a high level. That's a very high level of, where we have to be. Okay? The sages disqualify the person with personal interest, such as the king and the high priest, from participating in the decision-making process relating to a leap year, which we talked about, although a process which is called judicial, as in Rosh Hashanah. Although it is the declaring of the moon that is mentioned there, its laws apply to the keeping the leap year. We're not going to finish this. Okay. Leap year as well. This has all the qualities of a regular court case and is included in the decrees relating to this mitzvah as being warned not to take bribes. Some of them are rabbinical in origin, and some of them stem only from a higher degree of piety. What Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Elisha, were saying in the case of the fruit, of the basket of fruit being brought earlier than usual, was that they felt a closeness to the giver, that is, the natural closeness of personal interest. In great people, natural tendencies are even stronger in keeping with their powerful minds, so that they too will experience trials and choose the good out of freedom of choice, which is the mystery of the creation of man. Remember, the greater we become, the greater the challenge becomes. It would be totally unfair for God to say, well, you reached this level, you won. At every single case, our Yetzer Hara is equal to our Yetzer Tov. Nobody's better. It's not better than. It's not weaker than. It's always equal. If it would not be equal, we would not have free choice. Free choice would be removed right down in there. So there's nobody in this world who can say, the devil made me do it. Fox.
Flip Wilson.
Flip Wilson? Oh, that's what it was? Okay. Flip Wilson. The devil made me do it. I thought it was the other guy. Okay. Or anything else. We have to understand that, again, no matter how great we are or how low we are, it's always the same equal struggle. Never changes. Okay? It is possible that the quality of piety is also included in the mystery of creation. So just as power was given to bribery, to blind, so too power was given to what is considered bribery by a pious person to blind him. And that would be, even though it's not bribery in our standards, for him it is bribery. Somebody says hi, or whatever the case is. And so he would not be allowed to judge in that case. But he has to know that. Yes, and so we'll have to stop here.